Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Talking Crap podcast. I'm Lucas Jackson. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely co-host, Jaddy Josh Porter.
We're back again. It's been too long.
Well, it's Christmas, you know. We let people have. We wish other people had a really good Christmas and New Year period, and we are letting you know that we are back, and we are going to speed and blitz through some episodes in the coming weeks.
And I feel as though season 2's been dragged so much.
Yeah, we're sorry. We kept up with videos weekly. But anyway, today we are talking about risky business, or high-risk business, to put it more extreme. So we're going to be talking about some hardcore wrestling, along with some of the daredevils of wrestling, such as your Jeff Hardy's, John Morrison's, and much more. But it's not just us. We are joined by a lovely guest. We're very happy to get him. Joined by Just Joe Lando, Mr. Shooting Star Elbow himself. He will be joining us later on to help us discuss some of these topics. We're going to begin, Porter, with obviously this, even for me, is probably right at the start of my kind of watching wrestling. Something which I guess you might have only seen probably in later on. But we start with obviously the birth of Extreme. So, you know, you're a big Japanese wrestling fan. You know that hardcore wrestling to them has been a big part of their history and getting it kind of popular. And obviously the Japanese death matches were obviously what inspired, you know, Mr. Paul Heyman to form ECW. Obviously he brought a lot of the Japanese mainstay who did those matches over to America to
brought them back.
But brought them back, yeah.
Yeah.
Them back. But more important thing is because you've got to remember that. This is the thing, I mean, Terry Funk has had a 30-year career as a hardcore legend after he already had a 20-year career as a, proper wrestler, which is just, mind-blowing, to say the least. But, I don't know, have you had a chance to see any kind of old school kind of Japanese death matches?
Oh, I'm watching them all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine you would. But how insane are they to watch, even like now?
The fact that half of them survived for over 20 years just makes me wonder, like, what are they doing? Like, what kind of immortality potion are they drinking to not die? Because it's a death match and they really take the death part seriously.
Yes, they
like
do.
Electrified barbed wire. It's not even the jokey stuff like what TNA used to do, where they just flash the lights and make a buzzing noise.
Nope.
Like, it's fully like car batteries plugged into barbed wire.
Yeah, and it's this barbed wire in particular, which obviously ECW seemed to bring over to America. And this is obviously going back to a unique time where obviously, the world wasn't as open as it is now. No internet, no social media, etc. And it was tape trading, that existed. So you'd see people who would trade these tapes, and Paul Heyman and a number of kind of the ECW originals got their hands on them, and ended up, bringing that style into the mainstream, into the semi-mainstream in America, which was a big deal at the time. So ECW, talking about risky, like the entire kind of business model of ECW, and thinking that we probably an entire episode just on ECW to be fair, but ECW, with regards to their kind of risk element, I'd say really that was part of the attraction, surely, wasn't it?
Oh, 100%. Like, it's one of those shows that shouldn't have worked, but because of when it was, it did. Like, yeah. if you did that again now, started it up brand new, it wouldn't work. The only companies that do death matches or any form of extreme rules are established brands already, like CZW, who have been doing it since day one.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason ECW didn't work out is because of financial issues.
Yeah. Obviously, Paul Heyman obviously ran that company for a long time, and they struggled to get on pay-per-view and to get on television. And if you can't get on television, you can't make money in wrestling. That's kind of how Vince McMahon has done it. That's the model. That's what everyone's copied, whether it be AEW, whether it be Impact, whether it be Ring of Honors. If you cannot get a television deal, like, you can't make it as a mainstream promotion. And that's basically where ECW failed. It got kicked off it almost got kicked off pay-per-view at first. Its TV show, its TV show didn't get the ratings that it was required, and that was that. But in terms of the risk, it's something they definitely liked. I mean, obviously, many angles stick out at this time. and many kind of moments stick out. Definitely, I don't know if you're familiar with the Tommy Dreamer getting caned, repeatedly by the Sandman, which still to this day, probably one of the most barbaric kind of assaults, in wrestling. And you had kind of more, and with the riskier matches came the riskier storylines. And this is where, I'm a big fan of early 90s WWF. Probably the only fan of it, to be fair. Like a lot of people, they obviously skip that part and want Match era. But for me, that early
a lot of people aren't that old.
Yeah, you watch it. But in terms of what was the alternative, the WWF at the time were presenting a cartoon world where there were job characters, where there was superheroes and there was villains, but they didn't really ever kind of break that mold. And obviously WCW was in the early 90s, probably the best wrestling product that wrestling seen, like definitely in the 90s anyway, like in terms of pure wrestling. Like you want to see like proper wrestling with storylines and done proper American wrestling, let's say, because obviously Japan and Mexico.
The real theatrical style.
Yeah, but you had your Stings, your Lex Lugers, your Ric Flairs, your Steamboats. You had the best, the best workers kind of all time, basically. Or most of them in the same company at once, having great matches. And obviously ECW, they pushed boundaries and obviously ran a lot of controversial angles. And it seemed that a lot of their stuff was grounded more in realism. So it was a case of like, the storyline between Sandman and Tommy Dreamer, going back to that. The Sandman ended up getting blinded as part of that storyline, and he sold it for real. Like he went home and was blind. He walked around with a cane, had dark sunglasses for 3 weeks to sell the angle. And before the internet, before this, like we're saying, the dirt sheet came around, it was like, oh, like is Sandman actually like now legally blind? Is he going to be duetting with Stevie Wonder?
Like that, they took kayfabe seriously back then.
Yeah. Yeah,
no one does anymore, but
yeah.
Except Japan.
Well, yeah, I guess so. They present it as a sport.
Yeah,
but I still think there is that thing of like they do kind of know it's not real. I think.
like they know it's not real, but they honour the presentation out there.
Yeah.
Like they accept that it's not real, but they're not going to tell anyone that.
Oh no! You crucified yourself for that, haven't you?
And I mean, plus, majority of the punches are real. Like they will punch you in the face for real. They don't care.
I mean, we're going to discuss one more thing before we do into Joe Lando is coming up. Don't you worry, people, he's coming up. But obviously, as we continue our kind of story for this, like obviously, I just feel that risk taking was very important for wrestling in general in the mid 90s. And as you go forward too, to be fair. And we are going to talk about the modern day. We're going to bookend the modern day stuff in very, very soon. Obviously, as we've said, WWE used this extreme attitude, which again we can trace back to deathmatch in Japan. That stuff being brought over to American ECW, and you can literally link it now into what is the most profitable, most memorable era of wrestling, the Attitude. From the late 90s, and it all kind of had its hearts. In ECW, going back to the death matches. What's interesting though, and what a lot of people might not know, and this is where the networks are goldmine for this stuff. But WCW, they tried so hard to get this going, but they lacked the most important thing, I feel anyway, is the vision and the writing. They had the budget. WCW was owned by Ted Turner. He's a billionaire. So he was a Tony Khan of the 90s, let's say. Older and probably more racist, but the Tony Khan of the 90s in terms of, for younger fans watching it. They had the money. And, in 1995, they brought in Sabu. They brought in Public Enemy. In the late 90s, they had Mike Awesome. They had Raven, criminally underrated wrestler. Criminally underrated for his promos.
Not in TNA, he wasn't. TNA made use of him.
It took him 10 and a bit years though to get that kind of credibility, where he's someone who really he was part of probably the best kind of story-driven feud between Ray himself and Tommy Dreamer in ECW, and someone who did a plethora of roles for all the companies. But it wasn't until you said he went to Impact or went to TNA, in the early 2000s, where he'd finally kind of got as big as you should have got. But they went to WCW. They had WCW had a hardcore title at one point, but it just didn't seem to have the same kind of effect.
No, well, yeah. There's the fact they didn't have the same effect, and the issue there was that the WCW hardcore title was possibly the prettiest title. Like, prettiest hardcore title, which is an issue. You don't want a pretty hardcore title.
No. They've got the shit, really.
I think WWE easily had the best hardcore title ever. Because it represented hardcore, the fact that it was smashed to bits and made up of broken pieces.
I agree. And obviously, what comes with this, and we've touched on some of the angles, like we said, they were definitely ECW. But what comes with this is the Crash TV style of things. And obviously, this is someone who isn't really ever someone you talk about positively, but it is kind of down to Vince Russo. Vince Russo, with creative control over him, he was able to cultivate this style, which WWE they still do to today, or they shall try to do. Obviously, not to the same effects of 25 years ago. But the Crash TV, the shit just happens. So nowadays, when you see Braun tipping over ambulances, or you see these random love triangles and weddings and all this kind of stuff, it was all stemming from this. And Vince Russo, again I'm going to give him two kind of things here, but he went to the forefront of that only when he went to WCW and he squandered it. But definitely that Crash TV style, it was the norm now in wrestling. Whereas before in the early 90s and the 80s, it would be your one big pay-per-view a year where you would have a big angle. Now it was every Monday night. When there was a big angle, there was a return, there was an injury, there was someone switching brands, switching companies, and obviously that's something which, again, probably goes into more detail in a separate kind of episode. But Porter, what are your kind of thoughts on Crash TV then? Like, do you think it's something which, could even AEW, they do try it sometimes, some of their bigger angles and bigger spots. Is it something which is kind of leading to diminishing returns now? Everything's kind of been done.
Yes and no. I think bringing it back here and there for Braun Strowman spots, because he is a genuinely strong guy. He competed for multiple strongman competitions, and he can legit lift a van if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously, the amount of effort it would take is probably why he doesn't do it. But I think for people like Braun Strowman, there aren't many people his size anymore. So bringing it back can benefit at the good opportunity. I think that there are certain spots that didn't quite favour him in a good way. For example, tipping over Miz and Morrison in a van.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the biggest issue with that one was just because that entire storyline was a comedy.
Yeah.
But moments like that do work. For example, when he tipped Roman Reigns over in an ambulance, that had the desired effect. He looked like he wanted to kill him, and he tried to.
I'd argue that the problem they kind of have, definitely in WWE, is that once they get a good thing or get a good Crash TV angle, they repeat it so many times.
Yeah.
Off the barricade spot. How many times did the barricade break? It gets to the point where, if you was realistically running the show, you'd put a fucking metal plate behind it or something. This is not going to break. Same thing even with the ring imploding. It was
that doesn't happen many times though. I think that's only happened 3 or 4, less than 5, I think.
It is less than 5, but definitely there's been more in the past 10 years than there was in the 10 years before that. There was a massive gap between it happening in 2002 to about 2011, I think, when Mark Kennedy and Big did it. But then it's been every kind of couple of years, and now you just know it become a case of it's going to happen every 6 months because it is a big spot.
Yeah, and whenever two big guys
feud, break as well since then. Okay, if we add in cages breaking, ladders breaking. When Enzo fell out the shark, it was Enzo in the shark cave and he fell out or whatever. He jumped out.
Yeah.
So there is this case of things just break. So it goes from barricade spot to ring breaks to now everything just breaks. And it's okay.
But you can sense when a ring's going to implode because it's going to be a storyline between two big guys. You look at it and you're like, there's no way that at some point during this story someone's going to break the ring. But I'd argue that cage breaking is a lot cooler than barricade breaking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the cage match, as you know,
Like,
Josh.
if it's designed to keep someone in,
Yeah.
having Big Show then throw someone through said cage that isn't meant to be escaped makes it that much cooler.
Yeah, I agree. Someone who is very cool, and we're now going to get to, see what I did there?
Ooh.
We're going to welcome him into the world of talking crap and discuss help us discuss the next two topics. With our guest, we're so pleased to have him. Please welcome DKW star of Full House Wrestling. He wrestles all over the country, and hopefully once shows get back, he'll be doing many, many more. Please welcome Joe Lando. Hi Joe, welcome to the Talking Crap world. See, you're thrilled to be here.
No, I am. I'm excited.
Thanks for doing it such last minute. So we're talking about risk takers and kind of high flying and that and stuff. But before that, I've got to turn to Mr. Porter, as you know what time it is.
You're gonna love this, Joe.
Oh,
I said
okay.
you're hating this.
Yeah, you're gonna hate it, but you're gonna love it. It's called the Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge. We haven't done this in a while, but we're bringing it back. The rules are pretty simple. You have 1 minute to perform a promo after being given a topic by myself.
All right.
You'll be scored out of 10, 5 by me, 5 by Lucas. And I'm going to find out what team you're on, because I don't remember who was on our team last.
So long, isn't it?
It's been so
I
long,
think
I
it's
can't
yours.
remember.
I think it's yours.
It might be, yeah.
All right.
Well, you're on Team Josh for this episode, so you ready?
Yeah, go on. Shoot.
So, you will be competing at DKW Demolition
All right.
against our next two guests,
All right.
Taylor James and Danny Black, for the DKW Showcase Championship.
Okay.
Your 1 minute to give us a promo starts now.
All right. Well, Taylor James. We spent most of 2020 wrestling each other. It was just a highlight reel of me and Taylor. So that's dead. You've already seen that. Me and Danny Black, we're really good friends, you know. So that'll be dead. We don't want to fight. They're two of my closest mates. So that's it.
I mean, 30 seconds, halfway there, not bad.
Yeah.
But as we know, you're not really a massive talker, so understandably for...
I told you even like this. I told you even like this. Thing is, let's. I'll go in the middle and say it's a 3. I can see that promos are not the strongest part of your arsenal. We're not here to obviously just talk about promos. What do you think, Josh?
I'm going to have to go with 3 as well.
Oh, I wanted to get the new low, and you gave me a 3.
I wanted to get the new low. Well, no one scored.
Give me a 1.
Oh, okay. This is where it comes. That's the goal. He wants to
go on. Give me a 1, you cowards. Do it. Do it.
I'll give you a 1. I'll give you a 2.
No, give me the 1. I want to be a record breaker. Lowest.
Do you know what? We haven't had anyone break that record yet. So go on then. I'll give you a 1.
Yes. Come on, man.
So
I put no effort into that. Come on, I tried.
at the end of that, Joe, you have scored 3 points.
3. Come on, man. 2.
3 overall so far. You are the lowest scorer in the Pipe Bomb Challenge history. Not just season 2. History.
The lowest score, that was like 6.
Undisputed, baby. Let's go.
I think so far the lowest has been like a 5.5 or something.
Yeah. No, I'm out here setting new lows by the day.
Well, fair enough, Joe. Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about risk takers then. So obviously in modern wrestling, in terms of obviously what you do as well, like obviously high flying, dives have gone insane. Obviously, me and you, we talk quite regularly, and some of the stuff you send me dive wise, I'm like, what? This is possible. Do you see? Can dives get more? Is it extreme? I guess the right word. Can they get? Is there a way to? Are they going to improve? What do you think?
Yeah, of course. They're always improving, man. There's dumb stuff that sometimes I've only seen in backyard that hasn't been done in pro yet. Like there's stupid stuff you haven't seen it, man. It's insane.
I mean, so what do you think it's going to keep getting pushed? Like even in the mainstream as well, then? Yeah,
always.
It's crazy because the amount of stuff I've seen you do personally, either at a show or kind of like on your social media and stuff. I'm just like, wow. But you're saying there's still more stuff to come, like
100%. Yeah, both from me and wrestling in general.
Yeah. Are you? Do you think that there will come a time where there'll be too many dives though?
I mean, haven't we already reached that point?
I guess so. Yeah, it's in every match now, isn't it? Everyone does that, even big dive.
That too many dives is subjective to one's like of wrestling. Like some people like a constant dive fest, but some people don't really care for it. For some people, one dive in a match is enough.
Yeah, I'm very old school with this kind of stuff, as you know. So I am like that kind of one dive a show kind of thing. I can see the audience. Obviously, they want more, don't they? It seems. And I think what you do. And again, we'll leave your socials in the description and stuff. Like what you do, though, I think you find kind of unique twists on top rope stuff. Like obviously your shooting star elbow, which I now like.
You didn't like it before.
I didn't like it before. But then it's unique, It's unique, and it's your calling card now.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I try to do that with everything on my moveset. So I'll take like a standard moonsault, but I'll do it from like the corner, or like I vault in and into a split leg. Or with the shooting star press, I add an elbow drop to it. Or with a normal flip dive, I add a twist to it, so I land on my feet. It's, I take simple high flying stuff and add a twist on it, so it's kind of associated with just me instead of doing generic stuff that you see everyone do.
In terms of like mainstream though, like who kind of inspired you or brought that kind of style into you? Because I guess I'm guessing that someone wouldn't just go on do a shooting star press now. There must have been someone who.
I don't know, because when I first started watching, like CM Punk was the guy for me, and then it more shifted to Daniel Bryan, and then I don't know where I got the love of the high flying from. I guess from watching like the indies in backyard. So when I started finding like Will Ospreay and stuff, that's kind of where my passion for like the high flying, the stupid stuff comes from.
I wouldn't say the word stupid on that. I think in the day it's the elite level, I guess, high flying. I guess you'd argue, because obviously Will Ospreay just coming off obviously being in Japan, in Wrestle Kingdom. But I mean, so we're going to touch upon backyard actually. I think it's important actually. And I mean, I've always known backyard as the original backyard. I mean, the early 2000s, where people were basically copying what was in the WWF and the ECW at the time, and it was very hardcore orientated, the backyard that I'm familiar with. But then to me, kind of died out. But it seems that it's rising again. Definitely, and we have to be careful what we say here, but definitely within the last kind of couple of years, because of circumstances have happened in wrestling and in the world in general, to lead that people are turning to different outlets for wrestling, I guess. So do you see a way that a backyard promotion will be able to get popular kind of again, going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think they've already started to kind of rebuild a bit of a fan base and kind of get some popularity again. Just before the whole pandemic outbreak, GCW ran a backyard show. So that's and they let fans attend it as well. So that's already a step back into backyard. And obviously with the whole pandemic going on, I know people have tried to do backyard shows. I was planning on doing one, and then it just getting worse, so I couldn't go through with that. But it is something I plan on doing somewhere down the line, despite whether shows are back or not, because I feel over the past year I have kind of refound my real passion and love for wrestling, to the point where I'm happy to do it wherever, whenever. So I think with stuff like that, backyard is definitely kind of coming back in, so to speak.
I think some people treat it like a testing ground, I guess, as well. I guess for your style, that it's a good testing ground, and to see if it works kind of in a backyard environment, then it might work in a bigger environment, you know.
Yeah, exactly. When there's not the pressure of a crowd there, or even any of the other wrestlers, you know, judging you, so to speak, on your match, it is kind of a chance just to let free and kind of have creative freedom over your own match,
which is very rare in wrestling. As you touch upon there, like obviously in other shows, you get people who chip in and say, "Don't do that, do this." But I mean, in terms of kind of like risk takers and that, like matches that obviously involve those risks, one that's very, very popular now are ladder matches. And they obviously fit this risk-taking, high-flying style, and they elevate obviously the dives and the offense. I mean, would you say even with those matches, there's still more that can be added? I mean, I've watched stuff with like Lucha Bros and Young Bucks and Hardy Boys and that, and it's just like, in my head, because obviously, you know, we're completely two different worlds of wrestlers and fans and that, that's great. But it's like, in my head, I'm like, surely everything's been done. Like, you know, are you going to put a ladder on top of a ladder and then dive off it or something? Or
yeah, no. There's always so much crazy stuff that still hasn't been done. It's insane.
Have you had a ladder match, Joe?
No, never. I never even had like any type of weapons match. Nothing.
Well, I think that will change definitely. Ladder match seems to be definitely in terms of multi-man ladder matches, because you can get all those spots in and all those crazy dives and stuff.
Exactly. I haven't even had a chance to, you know, explore what I can do in a ladder match. So of course, there's still, you know, lots of stuff that hasn't been done.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Do you still think as well, like there's still loads of stuff that can come from this?
Mate, you don't know the half of it. There's so much to be done.
If there are no upgrades that can be done, I'll be shocked, because wrestling is constantly evolving. It's one of those things where it's like War Games recently, the women's War Games match, Io Shirai jumping off the cage wearing a trash can. Like, that's innovation in itself. Like little things like that, even if it's not a major evolution, like there's always a little twist to be added to something, a little flair that someone can do.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a beautiful thing about wrestling, I guess, though, isn't it? So 2021 goals, Joe. Like, I guess it's a rough year for, you know, not knowing how how we're going to end up with it. But if you let's say you want to do like 3 things this year in wrestling, what would they be?
Oh man, it really is impossible to answer, because I don't even know if there will be wrestling this year.
Yeah. Okay, if there wasn't the global bastard going on, what would you like to do?
I've said to myself that from the day kind of wrestling is back officially, from a year from that day, or within a year, I want to wrestle in America. That's kind of the biggest goal for me. Yeah.
Because you were born in Florida. You were born in Florida, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I was born in Florida.
So yeah.
Which makes it easier with like visas and stuff. Like I won't need a work visa to go out there, because I can travel with my American passport. So that's kind of the main goal. And if I do that, I literally don't care about anything else. Apart from that though, I don't know, there's still a lot of shows I haven't done here. But I want to break into the London scene a bit more, because I've done shows in London. I mean, I've done shows all over, but never consistently. So to find a consistent promotion to get bookings with would be nice, and then like just to break the London scene more,
like a more resident spot.
Yeah, because I feel I have a bit of a fan base, so to speak. I don't have almost like a specific promotion fan base. So there's not a promotion that I can come to every time and I'm like, right, I'm guaranteed to get a pop or this reaction. It kind of feels like each time I have to almost introduce myself to that crowd, you know?
Yeah, well, look, cross fingers, all that can happen. Last thing then, show us your merch then. You may as well show us your merch and we'll put the link in.
We've seen the boxes.
Right, it's backed up at the moment, so let me just... We're opening a new one. It's a medium.
Oh.
I think you're looking at you there, Josh, not me. I don't think I had medium is fries, and that's something, and I have 2 of them.
So we've got.
Yeah, we'll leave a link in the description.
All right. On the front, we've got Just Joe Lando.
Yeah.
And then the back, this is where the money is.
Oh,
there we are.
backyard scene. That's not a screenshot from where I think it is it? It's not Callum Newman's ring, is it?
No, that's my ring, bro.
Oh, I forgot you had a ring.
Yeah.
Around there. You can't see it, but it's there.
No, it's out there.
It's out there.
Out there in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, look,
yeah, I was gonna say the shirt was based off of like the stuff I've been doing in my backyard during lockdown. Like that, what that picture is based on. That video got like 45,000 views on Twitter, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Probably a few more after this. But yeah, Joe, you've been great to talk to be fair, and good to get some insight, definitely on the backyard kind of stuff. All the best for 2021. We'll see what happens. But once again, thank you for joining us, Joe Lando.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye.
Having him on. Good to get some insight. Definitely the backyard stuff. I think that's something we might have to revisit another time. But as we wrap this up, we're going to tell you that next week, somebody mentioned that actually, formerly known as Taylor Essex, now Taylor James, he will be joining us and discussing the world of wrestling that is in Essex. It's a county which DKW is in, where Triumph is in, where World War, where so many of our kind of our favourite promotions are basically. We'll be discussing that. But final thoughts there. So when you think of someone who's a risk taker, in wrestling, who would be your go-to kind of wrestler for that?
My go-to wrestler for risk taking.
Yeah.
There's so many to choose from. Like, it's a ridiculous amount, but I think the icon of risk taking outside of ECW has got to be Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Not just in wrestling, he does stupid stuff everywhere. Even Darby Allin could be a runner-up in that one.
Yeah, he won the new breed, I guess, of it.
Yeah. But I'd say Jeff Hardy is like the icon of risk taking. Like the amount of stupid spots he's done, jumping off ladders, nearly killing himself multiple times.
Yeah,
and his opponent.
That fall from the cell we did a few years ago. Oh, I mean, that ladder match. Now he's got an obsession with his ears as well, which is kind of concerning.
Well, Randy Orton's got an obsession with his ears, it seems.
But yeah, I definitely think Jeff's one of those. Like, definitely, he's definitely kind of that kind of thing. And finally, what do you think? WWE, they've been pressurized to do more risky content. We touched upon some of the stuff, and obviously, there's countless actually other stuff we could pinpoint. But do you think they will end up doing some more risky content story-wise? Or do they have started with some of the more kind of cinematic stuff? Obviously, they had to. Obviously, Bray Wyatt got set on fire, so I mean that is kind of risky, I guess. But do you see him going back to the days of, or a new day of, risky content?
I think so long as Jeff Hardy's there's always going to be some form of risky storyline involved. Because obviously, 90% of the storylines he's been involved in have been some form of risky.
Yeah.
For example, him and Randy Orton, where Randy Orton was constantly trying to pull his ear off. But yeah, I'd say that they're always going to be trying some form of risky content. Like, I don't think it's going to be a mainstay, but I think it's going to be making sporadic appearances, even in cinematic stories. I think cinematic matches are going to have that more risky content because it's easier to pull off one of their stunts in a cinematic match than it is to pull it off in a regular match. For example, throwing definitely AJ Styles off a house. Or throwing someone off a roof.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do, to be fair, going forward with this stuff. But look, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to... But look, guys, we'd love to hear what you have to say about this, because obviously we missed a few people, obviously extreme. I must say, even on the women's side as well, there were so many women in ECW for certain who were able to get down dirty with the guys. And ECW, we've got a lot to thank ECW for, in wrestling. The table spot, for instance, that's Sabu. Sabu brought in the table to wrestling.
The Hardys brought in the ladders.
Hardys brought in the ladders, much later on. But you can argue ECW, though, that they were doing ladder matches, way back when. And kind of falling off objects. ECW did that a lot. New Jack.
Do you know what? I'm surprised we never mentioned New Jack in this entire episode. Like,
well, there he is. There's his mention. There's his mention. Probably because I'm literally looking over my shoulder now, just in case he appears in my house.
and another man that emphasised death in deathmatch.
Yeah, I mean, New Jack, he was famous for throwing people off things. And then likewise,
trying to kill people for legit.
Yeah. And, a lot of the promotions in the early 2000s, the backyard promotions, they couldn't obviously afford the glamorous kind of gimmicked weapons that WWE could produce, but they were finding different things. That's where the glass came into it, and scissors and light tubes, and obviously fire.
Light tubes are the ones that worry me the most. Yeah,
there's quite a lot that worries me about modern wrestling in terms of this kind of stuff. But the Edge, I think Joe Lando, he said it best. There's always something more. There's always something more. But anyway, we're going to be back next week. Thank you for joining us. I've been Luca Jackson, John Josh Porter. You've been watching the Talking Crap podcast. Thank you very much. Good night.
Take it easy.